Is it? No.
Here we are. Welcome to Clinical Conversations at High Noon with the Green Nurses at Holistic Caring Network, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. And we are truly here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. And here's a little video about what we do in the cannabis space as nurses. And then we're going to get started.
We changed the paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship. And what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine. And I'm excited to really bring this into light. There's a company called Canum that we're merging with, and we will now be doing global education.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
And it's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers. Oh, goodness. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Sherri, and I'm the Vice President of Nursing at Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. And I'm a cannabis nurse, patient, advocate, activist, and a passionate podcaster here to change the paradigm of healthcare with a team of amazing nurses and health professionals across the globe. So people are making great medicines, people are selling these amazing formulations, yet no one is truly educating patients on how to use cannabis as medicine. That's what we do. So I'd like to introduce my business partner, co-host for our monthly clinical conversation, Elisabeth Mack. She is our CEO and founder of Holistic Caring Network, with the Green Nurses operate out of. Elisabeth is also Director of Clinical Affairs at Canum in Australia, and we're going to be launching Canna America soon. And so we're really, really excited to be building global clinics to help more people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. Happy October. I love fall, my favorite season.
I know. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, we're going to jump into this. There's a lot to talk about today. But, as we've been building our organization and our ecosystem to help people, what have you seen as the 4 Ds and how the 4 Ps are going to fix the 4 Ds?
Well, gosh, when we look at cannabis medicine in America, we think about the dispensaries, right? And we think about the patients and then the practitioners, right? And so in traditional healthcare, they're all linked together. The doctors, the pharmacy, and the patient all talk, and they get on the same plan. There's a disconnect in cannabis medicine in America and everywhere else, but essentially a disconnect between the dispensaries, the doctors, nurses, and the patients. There's a distrust about the products, the industry itself, the people that are making it up. And then there is disorganization. We've got 37 legal states, but no federal system that is uniting them. And instead, we've got a patchwork of really disorganized laws and regulations, and nothing for a patient to really grip onto and understand and say, this is for me. And then dosing. We know that with clinical cannabis, when you modulate the endocannabinoid system, you're fine-tuning. And having a clinician help support that in lieu of everything else that you've got going on really helps. So we've created the 4 Ps to overcome the 4 Ds.
Yes.
The 4 Ps are adding process, adding professionalization, adding vetted products, and then programs for patients. And we put it all together in one ecosystem that makes it easy to put this right into the treatment plan with everything else you're doing.
Exactly. So make sure you join us. You go to holisticcaring.com at the very, very top of the page. Join the network. So in the network, it is run by nurses, and there's patients and providers across the globe. We have a free introductory to cannabis course, free patient portal, support group, podcast, webcast, webinars, and a ton of information in our little
The new guide.
the
PDF, the medical cannabis guide is for free. Sign up for the newsletter on holisticcaring.com, and you'll get our free dandy little PDF of medical cannabis.
Yep, handy dandy. So what we're going to do is we are going to dive right into our session. So our October newsletter was about cancer and cannabis and how one white mono approach, using cannabis as medicine if you have cancer. So, think about as nurses, we hear all the time. I hear it in the background. I hear it in the groups. Don't ever use cannabis if you have cancer. You must be nuts. Or don't ever have chemotherapy if you have cancer. You'd have to be nuts. So 2 popular answers to the same question is another question. What should I do to treat my cancer? Right? And so these are really, really, really good questions. And today we're going to dig into that topic and discuss how CBD and cannabis may be a helpful tool to do what? Bridge the gap to make current cannabis therapies work better, to make conventional therapies work better, to decrease the side effects, chemo, radiation, and other biologics and immunotherapies. So a little bit more about cancer.
So the American Cancer Society reported that more than 40% of cancer deaths could be prevented if everyone avoided tobacco, kept a healthy weight with a healthy diet, got enough physical activity, limited alcohol, protected their skin from too much sun exposure, got vaccines against cancer-causing viruses, and got their annual screenings. So taking care of the body, taking care of the body temple and how we keep ourselves healthy. But really, we are in the driver's seat in so many ways. And we're going to go back to that repeatedly in this conversation. But really taking care of ourselves, taking care of our endocannabinoid system. And we'll talk more about what that is and how that keeps us healthy. But when we think about statistics and the people that get cancer, there are hundreds. There's probably about 200 different types of cancer. And men can get 1 out of 2 men can get cancer at some point in their life. And 1 out of 3 women can develop cancer over their life. And so it's something that we all need to pay real close attention to because we want to take care of ourselves.
Totally. Absolutely. So which leads to the next slide.
What about the kids?
Yeah. What about the children, right? So I'm a pediatric nurse. And I've worked in the conventional system for quite a long time doing home infusion, chemotherapy, hospice nursing. So, according to the cancer.org statistics, about 10,470 children in the United States under the age of 15 will be diagnosed with cancer this year. So childhood cancer rates have been rising for the past few decades. There have been a majority of treatment advances, and we're still seeing these desperate parents looking for all options to help their children. So the good news is that because of major treatment advances in recent decades, 85% of children with cancer now survive 5 years or more. However, after accidents, cancer is the second leading cause of death in children ages 1 to 14.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, it really is. So here's a happy story. And this little girl here, we've gotten permission from mom and she's done testimonials before. So this is a story of a child that's used both in their family using both conventional care plus CBD rich formulations. And so we've been taking care of this child since 2019. And here's her message or her testimonial to cannabis. So she says, my daughter was diagnosed in 2019 at the age of 7 years old with an aggressive brain tumor in her left temporal lobe. She had a gross total resection of the tumor in Boston, which was followed up with 6 weeks of radiation due to the high grade of the tumor. She was put on seizure medications twice a day, and a seizure was the reason how they discovered the tumor. During radiation, we learned about the green nurses at Holistic Caring, and we were educated, and we began to give her whole plant CBD oil because we learned about the anti-cancer benefits. She did amazing during her prescribed treatments and suffered very few side effects, which surprised her medical team. Her oncologist told us statistically that children with her diagnosis have less than a 50% chance of living 5 years. We continue to give her the cannabis tincture because we were told by her oncology team that this tumor was highly likely to come back and it could be higher grade. We followed up with MRIs every 3 months and an EEG the following year that all looked great. No evidence of disease. She was healing in all areas. The medical team decided to try to wean her off of her prescription seizure medication. The green nurses worked with our team and was able to advise us on how to adjust her tincture dose to help with the medication wean. We were successful, and she has not had a seizure since the initial one in 2019. We continue with her cannabis tincture daily and brain MRIs every 3 months. And as of December 2021, she continues to be completely clear of any sign of recurrence of cancer, and her brain is healing quickly from surgery as she grows. Her oncologist, who is skeptical about cannabis helping her, has told us that whatever we're doing is working because my daughter looks amazing for the diagnosis she was giving. We were able to space her brain scans now to every 4 to 5 months, and I know that the cannabis medicine is saving her. I'm forever thankful to the plant and to the green nurses for helping to guide us. She is a healthy, happy 10-year-old, 4th grader now, and as you would never know, the serious diagnosis she was given less than 3 years ago. I hope that any parent facing a situation like this with their child would put their faith into cannabis. I'm so thankful that we did. And this always brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, that's hard to get through that. What a powerful story. So, let's talk about cancer.
What's cancer?
What is cancer? So cancer is, a disease of overgrowing cells. As we talked about in the opening, we are constantly replicating our cells. We're constantly our RNA and DNA is renewing our body. We're new every 7 years, and every day we have new cells being made. So basically what happens in cancer is that when we are multiplying, there's a glitch, there's a mistake. And so something in that disease cell is spreading into the new cell and is making the wrong copy. So essentially what we want to do is try and stay healthy so that the cells replicate into good copies that are functional instead of spreading the sick cells and the disease cells. And our body should be picking that up, that there is a disease cell that's malignant and that's spreading and that's trying to get nutrients. But essentially, what we want to do is shut that down. So the immune system has failed to protect us, and the cancer cells they grow bigger and stronger. They steal nutrients from other.
They proliferate.
They take the nutrients from the nearby cells, sickening them. Then they start spreading their tentacles out into other areas in the lymph and the surrounding tissues, and then eventually, if it gets long enough, it spreads to different parts of the body. And so the immune system needs to repair that dysfunction. And what are we trying to do when we strengthen, number one, take care of the body. That helps the immune system when we're sleeping good, when we're putting the right nutrition into us. And then if we have surgery, that is sometimes the first thing, but there are conventional treatments. So surgery, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, hormone therapy, targeted therapy, immunotherapy, stem cell transplants, and then sometimes you can progress into clinical trials. And what the oncologists try to do is balance these initiatives. Like, when do we do chemotherapy? A lot of times they'll shrink a tumor with chemotherapy before they do the surgery so that they can remove all of it, right? And so there's a dance, and then you use radiation, just as you were talking about with your patient. And all of these have side effects and issues, little snags in the treatment plan that make it difficult to get through. And we can use cannabinoids to help on several of these different things on the side effects.
Guys, look at this slide. Jeez. So cancer treatments, like, listen, we're not anti-cancer treatments. Conventional treatments are extremely important, but they do create their own side effects. And there are many side effects of cancer treatments, regardless of what treatment you have been prescribed. Like I said, I've been an oncology nurse. I'm a chemotherapy nurse. I've mixed chemo. I've given chemo. And I've also done cannabis nursing in the oncology space. So what we see is anxiety, depression, insomnia, nausea and vomiting, lack of appetite, difficulty eating, wasting syndrome, decreased energy, fatigued, and lowered immunity. So cannabinoids can help mitigate all of those side effects. Cannabis can even help prevent nausea and neuropathy caused by chemotherapy when taken at the same time. So there's one thing, one side effect that not many people talk about. And, you all know I'm a little bit about the woo, and truly about spirituality as being the root of cannabis care. The essence of nursing is human caring, and that's caring for the entire human experience. So as you can see on this slide here, I wrote existential terror. This is one effect that people don't talk about. And I first heard this term by Nurse Jamie when she was presenting on the use of psychedelics for the end of life. And she talked about existential terror in hospice patients. And I've done hospice nursing as well, and I've seen this. So as a hospice nurse, I've seen this, and it is heartbreaking. And I've also seen it exist in those patients living with a terminal diagnosis who are still fighting for their lives, who are not yet on hospice. So existential terror refers to the cognitive and emotional experience of recognizing the inevitability of death, which is often accompanied by feelings of angst, isolation, feelings of despair, and an awareness of meaninglessness. Yeah. So imagine a lot of patients go from high functioning to not functioning at all. So we have an obligation as clinicians to address the whole person. The essence of nursing is human caring, caring for the entire human experience. And that includes all symptoms, bio, psycho, social, spiritual.
Yeah.
And here we go. You know me,
So
I'm all about the woo.
Well, yeah, but just thinking about these side effects, a lot of times when people say, okay, well, what about cannabis? Where does cannabis fit in? Does it cause these side effects? Does it treat these side effects, right? Everything is a risk benefit, right?
Yep,
if I introduce this into my body, A, will it work? How will it help me?
Yep.
And B, what can I expect? And so, if we're looking at nausea and vomiting, right? THC can help activate receptors in the brain that are going to help mitigate some of those side effects of nausea and vomiting. And we can use different formulations, and again, in conjunction with current treatment. So as Sherri was just talking about, and as we're working our way into chemotherapy, an hour before that dose, why not put some cannabinoids on board? Some CBD in a tincture, some vaping THC, via inhalation prior to chemotherapy can also squelch down some of that nausea and vomiting. So we want to give patients the toolkit so that they can use these various formulations to help with the side effects of that treatment. You mentioned neuropathy. CBD is being studied to be able to stop neuropathy in breast cancer patients that are taking Paclitaxel. And some of these other new ways to walk through treatment with cannabinoids in conjunction with current therapies. Anxiety, depression, some of that neuroinflammation, some of the fight or flight response in the amygdala, thinking about, I saw my grandfather die of cancer, now I've got cancer and I'm going to have that, and that existential terror, right? But here we can break that cycle by having some THC, activating that amygdala, calming down the fear, taking down some of those aversive memories, and maybe inspiring a little bit of hope. I was talking earlier about how even just a puff you go outside and now you can appreciate beauty. If you can tune back into beauty, then you can stop some of that terror in the mind. So, what we want to do is treat each symptom with a strategy.
Yes.
It's treat a symptom with a strategy, a strategy. And this is what we do here. And we sit down goal-oriented, interviewing with the patients to see what they need. And then we walk them through how to mitigate symptoms with this power couple of CBD and THC.
I love this.
So THC, I was supposed to talk about, it's more strategic. It activates the CB1, CB2 receptors in the body. As far as dosing, we want to push the brakes and push the gas with that patient in consideration. How are they responding? What are they taking in the conventional care, and what are their needs, and then what are the responses?
Yes.
So as we're using THC, is it enough? Is it strong enough? Are they sleeping? Are they eating? Do we need to give more clinically if we're trying to be curative? And we'll talk about some of the curative natures in a moment. But if we're looking at THC dosing, how do we activate the CB2 receptors that are going to reprogram those immune cells to do the right thing and turn off?
And the part that's so cool is you don't need THC alone to activate the CB2 receptors, the immune system. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's talk a little bit about CBD. So here we have THC, CBD, the power couple. We love them. THC enhances the efficacy of CBD, and CBD modulates and softens THC without taking away the medicinal effect. CBD has been such a game changer for so many patients when they use it effectively. So CBD is a great start when you want to wake up the endocannabinoid system. It works on over 70 targets in the body. It affects all organ systems and all of our neurotransmitter signaling systems. CBD helps to protect and restore our endocannabinoid system by boosting our own natural cannabis compounds, our own internal endogenous cannabinoids, soothing our nervous system and immune systems and quieting that inflammation, right? So CBD, like we said, can soften THC psychoactivity. You know, when patients are working with cannabis as medicine, they want to feel good. They want to feel good. You know, being a little elevated is okay, but when you're new to cannabis as medicine, the goal is to take the least amount to get the most therapeutic effect below the threshold of being impaired.
Really, just to feel normal again.
Yes, to feel
Give
normal.
me a few moments of normalcy.
Yeah. Yeah, so CBD keeps our own anandamide molecule. So when we're producing our own anandamide by stimulating our endocannabinoid system, if you take CBD, it can activate those other receptors. CBD can keep the anandamide circulating. And so it improves what? Intracellular communication between all of the systems. And the other thing I like too is CBD can help mitigate side effects of conventional therapy, pharmaceuticals, and can increase some of the efficacy.
Right, because it can potentiate, right? So CBD and THC really work well together. And, you know, if we back up and just think about the endocannabinoid system and why this works, our ECS, the endocannabinoid system, discovered based on the research into THC. And so we have CB1 and CB2 receptors throughout our body. The endocannabinoids that we make endogenously are constantly activating these receptors, anandamide and 2-AG, all over the body so that it can bring us back to balance, homeostasis at the cellular level. Okay. That's the whole idea about all of this. And so, well, but let's go back and talk about the terpenes, because we were talking about the cannabinoids, and now we're going to talk about the terpenes.
Well, I like to stay in order. She wants to stay in order, but she skipped around. So.
It's okay. But so when we're looking at a treatment plan, going back to the patient and sitting down and saying, how do we help you meet your goals and objectives in this path and this journey that you're on? So it's not just CBD or THC. We want to use those together in strategic allocations and ratios, but we also want to fold in some of the other terpenes and some botanicals that will complement things as well.
Yeah. So a lot of patients, you know, when they come to us, will say like, do I have to use THC? And like, no, you don't have to do anything, right? We want to develop this care plan for you that meets your needs. We want to meet you where you're at. And we're going to educate you along the way as to how THC may be beneficial if you so choose to use it in the future. So look at all these. Ethan Russo did some research, and here's a CBD treatment plan looking at cannabinoids plus terpenes together. And it, like, you know, it's oh, there you go. Dr. Blair, beta caryophyllene. Here's a plug for Dr. Blair. We have seen beta caryophyllene, BCP drops. This is a huge plug to you, Dr. Blair. Thank you for tuning in.
Beta caryophyllene is a CB2 activation. And the answer page this morning, I was reading it to Sherri earlier, was talking about how people are weaning from cigarettes by using some beta-caryophyllene. They had a vape with black pepper, beta-caryophyllene in it, and it mitigated the anxiety, and it helped reduce some of that drive for cigarettes. So yeah, it can be done in so many ways. But if I look at the pain, anxiety, insomnia, focus, depression, and gut health, these are all things that cancer patients are struggling with in one patient. So it's not an either or. We want to fold in the completeness of this to get full plant, whole spectrum as much as possible, using terpenes to influence outcomes eventually. So if we're looking to decrease pain and anxiety and to promote sleep, we're going to be using more of the sedating terpenes. If we're going to have focus, energy, and participation and getting people to show up at the dinner table, we're going to want more invigorating terpenes. But it's the terpenes that drive that effect.
Totally drive the effect. And Dr. Blair, I would add a few more. So we're looking at gut health. CBD, CBG, limonene, and I would add BCP to that. Okay, I would actually add BCP also to depression. Because when you're activating CB2 receptors in your gut, you need to remember your microbiome, your enteric nervous system communicates to your central nervous system via the endocannabinoid system. So I would actually add BCP
and all of the neurotransmitters, right? And so gut health is brain health, and neuroinflammation, which causes depression. So we can tune all of them down by mitigating the inflammation, which is key in using cannabinoids.
Key. So we love minor cannabinoids and terpenes. So let's get into this. Okay, this is a little handy dandy slide here that kind of talks about cannabinoids and breast cancer and the anti-tumor effects and psychotropic effects that are listed. So I want to go into a little bit, and we can discuss this. I want to talk about the cannabis effects on cancer cells in particular. So preclinical data shows that phytocannabinoids can fight cancer in 4 different ways. The first way is anti-angiogenesis. It stops the formation of blood vessels, prevents tumor cells from getting nutrients, which is starving the cancer cell. Then we have anti-proliferative. It prevents the spread of cells into surrounding tissues, stopping cellular growth. So proliferative is, it's proliferating. Sorry, you want anti-proliferating, stopping it. Then we have anti-metastatic, stopping the spread by altering the genes that replicate it, inhibiting the spread from primary site to another part of the body. That's anti-metastatic. And then we have apoptosis, killing tumor cells by triggering the off switch, allowing cancer cell death. So the amazing thing about apoptosis that I love the most is how it, in the presence of THC leaves those healthy cells alone. And in the presence of the cancer cell, THC disrupts the mitochondria of the cancer cell, releasing a protein that causes the cancer cell to collapse while leaving the healthy cells alone.
Which is the holy grail in oncology, right?
Yeah.
Like when we figure this out, and believe me, the NIH has got a whole task force that is finally getting some funding committed to exploring these anti-tumor effects. But if you go to cancer.org, you could look at the PDF of cannabinoids and cancer. I send this out all the time. There's a patient version and a healthcare professional version right at cancer.gov. Just go in there and write CBD, THC, cannabis, and it'll give you the PDF that it brings us right to the state of the art of what is known on this.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
It's amazing.
So this is one of my other handy dandy slides. Because this next slide gives an example of what an endocannabinoid deficiency might look like in a cancer patient, right? So you have to think about it. Cell replication, replicating cells, creating cells, cell death is controlled by the endocannabinoid system, right? So this is an example, and I'm going to let Elisabeth talk a little bit about this, of what it looks like.
Yeah, so we've got these 330 billion cells that are replaced daily, equivalent to about 1% of all of our cells. Wow. And at the cellular level, each has a lifespan. And towards the end of that, they get a signal to replicate and to go through the normal digestion, right? So we can always be renew. So the on switch activates the ECS to create the endocannabinoids, providing the messaging back and forth to replicate the cells. Once replicated, the off switch turns on, sending us that feedback loop that the cell has indeed been replicated and activates the off replication, right? So now we want to control the messaging, right? Reproduce what is healthy, turn off when it's over, and make sure that we're working completely well. So the endocannabinoids are patrolling everything. The receptors are seeking when we're looking for that nourishment, for that signal back and forth. The receptors will be synthesized, and then the endocannabinoids will fulfill that messaging. And if we're low on the endocannabinoids, we're not getting the right signals to turn off and on, and to make sure that everything is working ideally. So yeah, and this one, so we've got the cell life response, we've got the endocannabinoids, but essentially we're talking about the different processes that are happening throughout the cells. And then this is the science behind the cannabinoids. And there are 3 different types of cannabinoids. There's endocannabinoids, the ones that we make endogenously. Anandamide and 2-AG are the 2 most known. And we've got the phytocannabinoids, so CBD, THC, CBN, CBG, etc. And then we've got the synthetic cannabinoids like Marinol, and Epidiolex is a purified CBD, but these are FDA approved synthetic cannabinoids.
So what was the big shoe drop for me when I first started learning about the endocannabinoid system was how the anandamide molecule, which you can see here on the screen, and the THC molecule are very, very similar in molecular shape and pretty much do the same thing. So the plant makes THC, we make anandamide. The molecular structure is very similar, goes in, unlocks the door to the largest neurotransmitter signaling systems to help provide what? Balance or homeostasis to all of our other organ systems. I'm going to give you all a brief little review on the endocannabinoid system with my handy dandy umbrella, which I don't have, but we can pull it over there. But I want you all to imagine an umbrella, that your body is an umbrella. All of the spokes of the umbrella are your different organ systems, your cardiovascular, respiratory, central nervous system, reproductive system, genitourinary system, immune system, digestive system. So all of in the umbrella is to show the interconnectedness of all of our systems. So you have all the spokes of the umbrella, your organ systems. The fabric pieces that attach to the spokes of the umbrella are those neurotransmitter signaling systems. So the endocannabinoid system blankets on top of our entire body because we have cannabinoid receptors on all of the cell surfaces of our organ systems. And we have cannabinoid receptors at the neurotransmitter signaling junction site. So we produce internal endogenous cannabinoids all day long, on, off, to give messages to keep our umbrella going up and down.
Think about the switchboard.
Yeah.
It's a switchboard of communication. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about, the way that this is constant.
Yeah.
Right. And our body is such a masterpiece at keeping it all stitched up. And the idea that God gave us plants where this ball of grapes right over here can be mimicked by this ball of grapes, which is what it looks like to a lay person. Obviously, the chemists, think it's much more interesting. But ideally, what we're doing is supplementing with a plant that God gave us that nourishes this. So we can eat hemp, we can eat, these fatty acids, omega-3s and 6s that, we really want to supplement to keep it all running well and helping us synthesize and make these. But, and going back to those 6 cells on the receptors, they are signaling that they need the endocannabinoids to help bridge that gap and restore signaling back to homeostasis. Yep. And when we're not making it, we supplement and we take these phytonutrients from this plant into the body to bring us back to balance. And it's almost that simple.
Yes, it is almost that simple. But here's the thing. We're going to give you 2 case studies. Okay. 2 case studies, same diagnoses, 2 different outcomes.
Yeah.
So, right. So here
you go first.
All right. So we have Marta here. So Marta is a stage 4 pancreatic cancer patient who came to us back in 2017. She had failed. They were unable to resect her tumor. She was sent home on hospice, failed chemo, failed radiation, was given a month to live. She couldn't walk, she couldn't eat. And the social worker called me and said, can you please come to her home? Her family has purchased a lot of cannabis and they don't know how to use it and they could use some direction. She just wants to be lucid, spend time with her family and not be in so much pain. So when I went to go visit Marta, basically we had come to terms that she was dying and she just wanted to feel good at the end of life so she could have that legacy work with her family. So all she took was CBD in the daytime, 4 times a day, and a little bit of THC at nighttime to help her sleep. So over the course of, I was checking in and she was doing well. And she just kind of dropped off the map. And I had asked, for her husband to call, and he didn't. But I got a call from her 4.5 months later. And Marta said, I can't believe it. It's gone. And I said, Marta, you're still alive? I'm like, I thought you were dead. And your husband forgot to call me. No, Sherri, they can't find the cancer anymore. Yeah. They can't find the cancer anymore. So this was after 5 months of using about 100 milligrams of CBD a day and probably about 25 milligrams of THC at bedtime. And that was it. Not that much. And so her endocannabinoid system was stimulated to the point where it was able to do its job. The cannabis helped to do what? It was anti-metastatic, anti-proliferative, anti-angiogenic, and apoptosis. And then over time, when she had these appointments with her oncologist, they said, can you help her come off of some of her medications? And so the doctors would make the tweaks in the pharmaceuticals. And what we did was we helped her to self-titrate and come off of the pharmaceuticals that she didn't need to be on. So the interesting story about Marta, and Marta is, I'm going to play the video for you guys at the end to show this, is that Marta's husband was diagnosed with cancer and she didn't tell me. So she actually called me up probably, I don't know, like months later. And she says, oh, she was ordering more, she was checking in. I want to order some more, can you get in touch with the caregiver? And basically I asked her, I said, what's going on? And she goes, well, my husband has cancer and I'm treating him
with the same protocol.
Yeah. And his cancer is going away.
Which tells you it's about the medicine. We need good full spectrum whole plant medicines by people that know what they're doing, that test it, that make good, safe medicines. But I'll circle back to that. I get to talk about
my mom,
my mother, right? So yeah, on the right, that's me with my mom. A few days actually before she died. My mom would have been 88. She was just shy of that. And I had actually been treating her with cannabinoids, a good 4-to-1 oil during the day and a 1-to-1 oil in the evening, helping both with vascular dementia that was advancing. Her short-term memory was shot, but she also had hypertension. She had diabetes, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular issues, statins, all of this. And basically for the last 2 years of her life, she was taking these oils and tinctures that we would send her. And it helped. She was better. When I took her to the primary care doctor, her blood pressure was down as I started to increase the oils a little bit because I wanted to preserve her memory a little bit more. And then what happened was she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I came back from a business trip, and she was yellow at the kitchen table crying. And it was a very fast transit for her. Obviously, with the dementia and everything else that we were working with, my decision with my siblings and my mother was to use cannabis oils and hospice. She was 88. She had a lot of other things going on. And we wanted to just keep her comfortable rather than, we didn't have the option of the surgery. We didn't have the chemotherapy or the radiation. It was diagnosed.
She wouldn't have been survived that.
She wouldn't have made it. And so that's why we went with the hospice and the cannabis oils, because it was my choice. But what we were able to do was to keep her comfortable until just the end when we had to move her to assisted living because the dementia was getting so bad. And I really do think she had some metastasis to the brain, and we had to stop the cannabis oil, but she was doing better. And, it's two stories of the same cancer, but it's also different life stages. Thank God Marta was only 70 and in really good shape. My mom was not in good shape, never took care of herself and didn't really want to pay attention to nutrition. Loved her blueberry muffins every single day. She was going to continue to eat them, slathered with butter, and there was nothing I could do about it. But you know what? The cannabis helped. It played its role. It played a part in each one of these stories.
Yes, absolutely. Which gives us, one of these other slides
Choices.
here.
Look at that.
Choices. What are the best options for patients? Guess what?
All
All
of
of them. We have to give patients choices, allow them to be in the driver's seat with the ability to make informed decisions with proper educations on risks, benefits, complementary integrative care. So there isn't one path when it comes to treating cancer, right? We look at bio, psycho, social, spiritual care, caring for the entire human experience. Each patient that we work with has a different care plan using different products with the same intention, which is to relieve suffering and improve quality of life. And so think about this. Many patients palliate their care with cannabis while going through conventional treatments. So let's talk about what palliate means. Palliate means to reduce or moderate the intensity of a disease without looking to cure. So we can palliate while seeking conventional care to cure, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, and it's not an either or, and this is a dance. And like with Marta coming off of hospice, my mother going on to hospice, and you never know, right? Because when I first started giving my mother those cannabis oil pills, when we wanted to up the dose at 50 milligrams twice a day of the good full spectrum CBD and some THC at night, I was hoping for that same response. You just don't know. But did she sleep? Yes. Was she feeling better? Did she wake up a little more refreshed?
Did she smile?
She smiled, and she got an appetite even a little bit more off and on. But we were using them strategically to palliate while she had those. Well, she didn't have the conventional care, but Marta did.
Yeah.
Right. Getting through that chemotherapy. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
We did. So, here it is. Cannabinoids from the cannabis plant can help in several ways, right? As the nutrients from the plant, the phytocannabinoids, mimic our body's own endocannabinoids, restoring and supplementing our bodies when we're deficient. So I'm just going to make a statement of fact. If you have cancer, you have an endocannabinoid deficiency. You're not making enough of your own internal endogenous cannabinoids to fight that cancer.
To keep the balance.
Keep the balance. So we work with patients with cancer every day, and the above questions remind us that our education and encouragement is needed for patients to explore all their options. Right? And so a lot of us nurses, Elisabeth, you've been a nurse for
35 years.
And I'm 34 years, right? And we've got diverse backgrounds. A lot of our nurses have come from the space of conventional care and have worked with complex patients and conditions, including cancer and oncology. We're bringing this knowledge, this new paradigm. Conventional treatments can be very successful, but they need to be monitored and adjusted. And we need to think about doing no harm. Patients don't want to be too trusting, but they also don't want to question their doctor. Right.
So we are that bridge. It is so necessary when we actually step in, knowing conventional care and cannabis therapeutics and bringing that together for these patients, being able to help them make informed choices, putting together that ecosystem, right? Putting the patient in the center and structuring the treatment team, the resource materials, our programs, our support, our nurse line, and our one-on-one coaching together with the dispensary and the CBD shops so that people can embrace body, mind, spirit healing, and working together with the holistic coaching that we give them, the conventional care that is being provided by their physicians, and the cannabinoid therapeutics that we help bring them all into perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we got a couple more slides here. So what do we have here going on, Elisabeth?
Well, our Cannabis and Cancer program for this month is 25% off. You just enter HEAL25 at checkout. And all of our patient programs are designed to be a 60, 75-minute lecture where we show you have all the slides as well, but it walks through cancer. What is cancer? How does conventional care treat it? What are the shortcomings and limitations? And then how might cannabis be helpful? What are some of those preclinical curative measures and the anti-tumor properties? And then how can we palliate? And then what's available? What are the different routes of administration? What are the different products that are contained in each one of them? And how would I start with each one of them for my plan? How do I inhale? How do I take an edible? How do I use a tincture? Literally, how do I use a tincture? How do I calculate potency? Do I put the drops in? Do I hold them? Yes, hold them for 60 seconds in your mouth. All of this is in these programs, and we're giving you the tips and trips, the hugs and nugs, as Sherri always says, to be able to be empowered to take this and into your plan and know what to do, to have agency and be empowered.
That's what it is, agency and empowered. So we're gonna wrap up because we got an email from this patient, which is great. This is another.
Oh.
This is really interesting. So, dear green nurses, this is really, really important. Patients want clinicians to learn this. Yeah. We had a patient reach out to us looking for a primary care doctor that knows something about cannabis, right?
We get this all the time.
We get this all the time.
How do I find a doctor that will be somebody that can guide my cannabis protocol? That is familiar with cannabis, that can talk about these products that are in the dispensary. I am a DIY, doing it myself, DIY, and I don't want to be a DIY. I have needs that are exceeding what I can provide in self-care, and the bud tenders aren't necessarily helpful. Yeah. So we need to make sure that all clinicians, all nurses, have a working knowledge of the endocannabinoid system and all of the way that this plant works in the body, knowledge of our systems, knowledge of the regulations, knowledge of our own legislative issues where we live and work in our hospital.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, the National Council State Boards of Nursing put out a call to action in 2018. And in case you don't know what the NCSBN is, the National Council State Boards of Nursing is the nursing regulatory board that puts on the exam for all nurses to take in order for them to get licensed. So in 2018, they wrote in the Journal of Nursing Regulations a 64-page document, and they put together 6 essential areas. Their statement was all nurses, nurse practitioners, nursing students, advanced practice nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. We have a responsibility. Right?
Yeah, I went through the first 3. The other 3 are the pharmacology, and understanding the products, the risks and the benefits, and the side effects and the interactions. And then to your favorite, non-judgment. Patients are using cannabis as a therapeutic option. Don't judge them as a drug user. We need to drop the stigma.
And how you do that is it's called discernment. Discernment over judgment, and really looking at biases, prejudice, and the dissonance that many people may have around cannabis as medicine, because the knowledge is there. The research is continuing to evolve. Once you go down the cannabis rabbit hole, there's no going back. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And the more I learn and the more we learn as clinicians, the more we're responsible for.
See something, say something. Share the news. When you learn this, you have to share the news. That's why I got into this, ended up writing a training manual that became a book that became all these programs, and it emerged with the Green Nurse last year to bring this all front and center, to take this not only to America, but globally, to train clinicians and to support patients worldwide.
Absolutely, worldwide. So we've got Coach Sheila Fiorni. Are there EC questions on the exam? No, not yet.
On the nursing, the NCLEX exam, not yet.
Yet. That's what we're doing. So we're actually having, where Elisabeth is treasurer of the American Cannabis Nurses Association. I'm actually honored. I'm going to be running for a board position.
For the board, good luck. In fact, there's a election town hall today. Yeah. Go to the cannabisnurses.org website, and you can find out more details about that. But yes, we are creating the scope and standards of practice for cannabis nursing to submit it as a subspecialty of nursing with the ANA and the ANCC, the American Nurses Credentialing Center, that all nurses then are going to be learning this. So please, we can put those links in the chat, and
yes, we can
get people to be involved.
Yeah, so this call to action needs nursing instructors who can disseminate this vital knowledge. There's not enough programs embracing the call to action. Guess what we're doing? We're going to go visit a college.
Well, yeah, we're going to visit a college and see if they have this in the curriculum, because we can literally supply all of the programs in the curriculum that are going to train the future nurses. Yeah, putting the best of the research, evidence-based practice, our case studies, and all of the conference notes for the past 8 years are all building our programs into being the best of what we can. So please stay tuned and visit our programs in the professional programs marketplace.
Yes, absolutely. And remember, we've got Heal 25 for 25% off Cancer and Cannabis program. If you go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, you get a free 7-page medical cannabis guide. Elizabeth and I spent 40 hours on it, did a lot of research. It's amazing. And then also we have a network, Holistic Caring Network. If you go to the website, it'll say join the network. It's free intro to cannabis course, support group, podcast, webcast, tons of information.
And a free community to share all of the things that we put in there and dialogue about current events and topics that are in cannabis news every day.
Yeah. And so this has been an amazing podcast. Listen, we are so excited and honored to be here. Thank you for joining. Please share the love, share the message of holistic caring in the Green Nurse. I'm going to be doing another podcast in a couple of weeks. And then we have our clinical conversations again in November.
It's not going to be the second. It's going to be the third or the fourth. We'll put it in the event section of our website.
Yes. And so remember, everyone, what it's really, truly all about. It's all about living your best life and helping others do the same. Thank you so much for joining us. And here's another little fun video that I love that moves me.
God bless.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses Group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.